Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by No Nonsense Healthcare Ninja. Happy holidays to you all. I hope those of you who are celebrating Hanukkah right now, which is still going on, happy Hanukkah to you. Those who will be celebrating Christmas this week, Merry Christmas to you. If you're celebrating something else or nothing, just enjoy the holiday season. So that's I covered the waterfront there, and the Kansas City Chiefs covered the waterfront with another Groundhog Day type of game, as the Chiefs, game after game after game, show really impressive stuff, but in the end have to fight for their victories in the National Football League. They are maybe the worst team in the National Football League at covering the number, if you care about those type of things, and they didn't do it again. Looked for a while there on that last drive like the Saints would do what happened last week, maybe decide to save some time and kick a field goal, but they got a touchdown, so there goes the money if you were deciding. It was a push, actually. But that matters little. The Chiefs win again. They do it in sort of difficult fashion against a really feisty Saints team that certainly was compromised with Drew Brees not at his best. But we'll talk about all of those things and college football, which wrapped up at Championship Sunday for the regular season, Championship Saturday for the regular season, and some regular season games also. Missouri Tigers in action, and not a good day for them. That coming up straight ahead as we continue talking football with Stan Weber right here.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com and let Chad help you. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new Smart Laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back, and Stan, each and every Friday, I'm on the program with Seren Petro, and now it's become kind of a running joke because he'll ask me what I think about the Chiefs game, and I'll say, well, why should I think differently? The Chiefs will probably win the I'll pick the Chiefs to win the game, but they'll probably have to work a little bit harder to do it. And each and every week he picks the Chiefs to mop the floor with the opposition. And he even says, well, I'm just going to keep doing it until it happens. And once again, in this game yesterday, it looked like it might happen as the Chiefs jumped out 14-0, despite some pressure and some absolutely out-of-this-world plays by Patrick Mahomes under pressure to get that lead. But the Saints were feisty. Their defense was good really all day long, pressuring the Chiefs, slowed down the Chiefs after that. Drew Brees wasn't very good in the game, but eventually grew into it. And once again, the defense allowed a team in the fourth quarter to create some problems, and the Chiefs had to win the game with a first down. I mean, it is like Groundhog Day. Absolutely.
Record-breaking level. I think they've tied the NFL record now with some Peyton Manning teams, by the way, from the Colts, of winning by less than a touchdown for 6 straight weeks. So you're right. It's Groundhog Day. It's the same story every week, and it's another win as they post the best record they ever have in 14 games. And remember, it used to be in the Len Dawson days there were only 14 games. So how about a 13-1 finish through that with 2 more games left? And what the Chiefs have done on the road has been very amazing. When you look back at that road schedule, Danny, look at the wins that they had over Baltimore and Buffalo and Tampa. Miami and Tampa Bay and New Orleans. It's been an incredible run where they could have lost a number of these games, and yet they found a way to win with the offensive line compromised, not playing up to the normal level. You wondered if things would turn, but even in a Superdome, not the normal Superdome with the fans roaring and the craziness. Still, it's a great win. They had control of the game the whole time, I thought. The only time I wondered if the Chiefs were going to lose was when the ball was sitting in the end zone on a fumbled punt. And I go, this is how craziness might occur. If you just pounce on this ball, Saints, you tied this game and you've been whipped. When I looked at the score and saw it was 14-0 and then 14-7, I just was shaking my head going, if that scoreboard was not there, if it was the old coach's football tape, I'd guess the score is 28-0 right now. The Chiefs seem to be rolling. And here they were. Guy pounces on the football, and it's a tie game. Nope, it squirts out of the end zone. I go, yeah, the Chiefs are going to be fine. Patrick Mahomes made giant plays. It was an interesting day. But I think the biggest theme for me, Danny, other than let's give the credit to the Chiefs' defense, and they did play better. They didn't allow the Saints to run easily, those kind of things. But I went into the game on Friday. I think it's in the morning. I think only on the Border Patrol did I get a chance to talk about Drew Brees. I don't think you and I had a chance to talk about it because we didn't think at this time early last week, that he was a possibility. They were saying almost no way he was going to play. Yeah, so we were talking differently. But I said, if Drew Brees comes back, he's going to be very rusty. He'll be kind of an out-of-body experience. I have experienced, not the NFL, but I've experienced trying to play quarterback after sitting out a week or two with broken ribs and a partially collapsed lung. And the game I came back, I still look and say, was I watching a movie where heaven can wait, where I wasn't out there and someone else? I'm just saying I played. I felt fine. I wasn't in pain. And yet it was just a dud of a performance. And that was Drew Brees completely. He was the story of the game because he gave the Saints no chance to win for what? At least a half?
At least a half, yeah.
At least a half.
I mean, he was bad.
He had no weapons. He was just awful. And his worst half probably ever as a pro. Completion percentage normally over 70%. And he couldn't even get the ball close to receivers. The ball was closer to the Chiefs or the cheerleaders, if the cheerleaders were there up in the stands, I don't know. So, the real story of the game to me was Drew Brees was not ready to play, and he gave the Saints almost no chance to win. Now, they fired up at the end and had some opportunities. So if these two teams play in the Super Bowl, I don't think the Chiefs got the real version of the Saints offense, but I do think the Chiefs got the perfect knowledge about the Saints defense. They know exactly what their strengths are, how they're going to attack, and it seemed to be a formula that could give the Chiefs problems because the Chiefs want to throw, and the Saints defense was set up to stop the pass. But you notice how the Chiefs just said, I think we'll try the running game for a while. And sure enough, it was there. They went and attacked the Saints. They know they can run the ball against the Saints. They don't have to wait a whole quarter of a half to have more balance in the offense. They have answers. So I think the Chiefs can utilize that information if they need to in the Super Bowl, if they were to play the Saints. But overall, they got the job done. They got a win. And now, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire ends up being healthy and able to play in the future, he's not going to play the last 2 regular season games, but he needs a rest probably. And now, Danny, they have the perfect entree to introduce Le'Veon Bell, who might be a better playoff back than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But they couldn't put him in a starting position and mess up the mind of the rookie and the team and bring this outsider in and just hand him the role. But I've said before, when Le'Veon Bell got here, I will not be surprised if there's a playoff game where he is the MVP of the game. Maybe not one they give an MVP like a first playoff game, but it will not surprise me at all if he just plays like the old Le'Veon Bell. And now Andy Reid gets a chance to introduce him into the Chiefs' offense on first down on the first play of the game. So this could end up being a real break for the Chiefs.
We got this is a complete side issue, but I think it's always fascinating to talk to you about quarterbacks. I think we got a glimpse in yesterday's game. People always say, what would Patrick Mahomes be like as a player if he were in a different situation? And I think we got a glimpse of that yesterday, that, yes, he was fabulous, and he made some really plays that almost nobody else could. They shouldn't have been ahead for any other quarterback. They wouldn't have been ahead 14-0. He made plays under duress, incredible plays. But in the end, he had 22 incompletions in this game, only threw for 250 yards, and he's still got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Le'Veon Bell. Look at Sam Darnold. I'm not saying he'd be Sam Darnold, okay? But I think we do get a slight glimpse yesterday as to what it would be like for even otherworldly Patrick Mahomes to have to play in a difficult circumstance. Say it's a player who's okay at tight end, a player who's okay at wide receiver, and the pressure he was receiving from a patched-up offensive line, which is the equivalent of a bad offensive line, which other quarterbacks have to deal with. I think we got a little bit of a window into how difficult it is to play quarterback under different circumstances.
Yeah, other than your Sam Darnold comment, I can ride with you, but I want to be careful because
I'm not
those
saying
are two words that don't fit in the sentence. Okay, because Patrick Mahomes is so much better than Sam ever was at USC. Because I thought he was overrated coming out, and he's fine. I mean, he could end up being a quarterback that could start for 5 years and get his 6 wins each year. There's a lot of guys who've done that.
Right, I absolutely am not comparing.
They're unbelievable athletes and they're great players, but if he were on the Jets or Jacksonville or someplace that was struggling, you see a window into what could happen, okay? Because even with Cliff Kingsbury, you can say, I don't know about him as a head coach, but as an offensive guy, he was taught well. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was teaching him some good stuff. We all give the credit to Andy Reid and a little bit of Alex Smith, right? Do we ever mention Cliff Kingsbury? But are you watching him with the Arizona Cardinals? Are you watching what he's doing with Kyler Murray? Offensively, he has some great information. As a head coach, don't know. As a guy associated with defense at Texas Tech, no chance, right? But Patrick Mahomes was trained well, and then he was trained super well with the Chiefs. It makes all the difference in the world. Now, when he gets put under duress and has to do kind of some crazy things, he still does it with a purpose. He knows where he wants to go. He knows who he's trying to move, and he has answers. Sammy Watkins would be a star player on some bad teams. He's out there running around on the field. So I think it is well said, Danny, that Patrick Mahomes, just starting from scratch and no teaching by Andy Reid and just out in the NFL, would be so much fun to watch. He'd be highlight reel, but it wouldn't be as reliable. And you would say, wow, I hope they make the playoffs because this is going to be a lot of fun.
Right.
Deshaun Watson right now.
Right.
Most people love him as a quarterback.
I mean, he's having a great season for a bad team.
Yeah. If everyone around you isn't doing what they need to do, and he wasn't, I don't think he was coached that well in the NFL about all the intricacies. And I don't think he had all the weapons. Now, obviously, one of them moved on to Arizona, but still, he wasn't playing at the level of Patrick Mahomes. And coming out, you had to think of those two guys near the same. In fact, Watson was considered a higher-rated quarterback with what he'd done at Clemson. So we're not here to cut down Patrick Mahomes, but it does help that he has all those weapons, and he is able to utilize them very well. But the Saints have a good defense. They've got a couple of defensive ends who can really put pressure on the Chiefs' strength. Offensive tackle is not a bad position if they have their starters in for the Chiefs. But we saw, even with the starters in, I think you're going to have to be concerned that there's going to be some pressure. If they can bring the pressure with only 4, you know that's the formula that gives you the best chance.
Right.
Charger football, right?
Right.
We know the Chargers bring the heat and play the rest of the 7 guys back in coverage, and that squeezes areas. You can double team 2 guys and those kind of things. It's the way to give you a chance against the Chiefs. And that's all we're talking about here is a chance because the Chiefs are so good. So I think the Saints can do some of those things, but the idea that they can stop the run and play that pass defense, let's throw that one out the window. When the Chiefs ran the football, there was running room there. So they, again, have put the Saints in a bind. Post the Chiefs up for 30 points against anybody. I mean, it is going to be hard for them not to score 30 points. So what is the opponent going to do to get to 33 and win a 33-31 game?
You know, it just shows you that within a game, even somebody as masterful as Andy Reid can learn a lesson. I mean, they threw 23 of the first 26 offensive plays. Now, they scored 2 touchdowns, but it was pretty much because Patrick Mahomes did some unbelievable things. And I think even Andy Reid would probably just have looked at that and said, that was a mistake. I mean, we could have run the football. And in the end, he adjusted. They did, and that allowed everything to be able to open up for them.
Yeah, they got the answers. Andy wants to pass.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, we want him to pass. And in modern football, everybody is passing the football. So Andy Reid's not sitting out there in left field. He was, when he had Donovan McNabb, he did not have a quarterback like this, and he still threw the ball more than he ran. When everyone said, oh, you can't do that. You got to run the football. Danny, the weather gets bad. You know, how can you possibly throw the football in bad weather? Well, throw that one out, okay? It doesn't matter.
People also didn't realize that the weather isn't as bad anymore. But
yeah, but plus, you know, you still get down to, well, how are you going to put the game away in the last 4 minutes? Well, Andy Reid's reinvented this. He is so far ahead. 10 years from now, we're going to laugh that teams would run the ball 3 times.
Right.
When you got the ball.
But even he was, within this season, he even has learned more to rely on Patrick Mahomes to do this.
Yeah, it's Andy Reid really understands what he has, and he has great weapons, but he doesn't have everything, okay? He doesn't have Marcus Allen to give the ball to at the goal line to slither through the last 3 yards and fly through the air, you know, and go invisible between linemen. Do you see what their goal line plays look like? I mean, they are wild and crazy, but he's not going, you know, double reverse. If you watch the Dr. Pepper college football halftimes at the championship games, Danny, you saw a little contest at halftime. Did you see any of that contest? You probably skipped right through it, but it has the Dr. Pepper can with a little hole in it. Yeah. And they have them like a free throw away. I mean, they don't have them back far enough for this competition, in my opinion. So what happens? They're so close that do you know what all the good performing people who do that, the college students, et cetera, do? They do a push pass. They don't throw the football at all. The ones who throw the football miss. Boom, 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 barely miss. The one who just treats it like a little push pass is taking it right down the middle. And I was watching that with my son, who's coaching at K-State, and he goes, I'm surprised with that proficiency that we don't see that push pass used in certain situations. I about fell out of my chair when Patrick Mahomes did it.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like, oh, it was too hurried or that was reckless. You know, he didn't even grab the ball. Remember, you used to have to grab the laces, Danny? Now we know that they can just grab the ball and throw it down the line. He grabbed the ball with 2 hands and threw a basketball pass over to Travis Kelce. And I'm laughing going, that is not hurried. That is a high percentage throw that he just made that we were talking about, the Dr. Pepper contest. So, you know, the Chiefs are doing some wild and crazy things at the goal line, but he knows where his strengths are. They finally are getting the ball in the end zone better than they did for a few games. This season has been so much fun for Chiefs fans. I laughed when you did your open today and you spoke about the betting lines because I do remember, without a doubt, this is a part of sports history is when your team is really good and you believe in them so much better than everyone else does, or you know they're good before everyone else, you catch that trend. I know so many people that bet money on their team because they love rooting for their team. They bleed so intently in their head about their team that they think they're great. So when they make a bet, they're not just trying to make money. They believe in a team, and they're showing support. And then they also cover. I know so many Nebraska fans that just used to laugh at the betting lines and would, you know how loud they would cheer in Memorial Stadium up in Lincoln when they'd score that last touchdown? The third teamers would push across the goal line with 1 minute left, and all the fans are still there, and a big roar would come out, and Dr. Tom would keep a straight face, but he goes, covered again for my people. You know, I know talking to Kevin Kiesman, he and his buddies were sitting there going, Bill Snyder's going to cover every time for many, 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 many
I
years.
think Bill Snyder definitely thought of it.
So now I'm back to the Chiefs. You'd think on a 13-1 run, defending Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes, and this lack of injuries with your stars, that you would probably be just printing money if you're betting on the Chiefs. And that's what makes it funny is, well, they win, but they sure have not done that Nebraska and K-State thing.
It is pretty funny. National Football League coming down to the wire. The Kansas City Chiefs if they don't get the number 1 seed, we'll have a story. They don't officially have it yet, but they certainly do it again. And the last 2 games appear to be walkovers, and they probably won't even play people in the last game. We'll see what the situation holds there. Let's talk some college football coming up next with Stan on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here. Upwards of 2 years, my back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from WreckExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit recexpert.com and learn more. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. It's another edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. Go see Chad and his cohorts. Nice people to help you out with the tricky area of health insurance for you. Creative and clever ways to save you money and get you great coverage as we enter 20 and 21. And Stan, an interesting football weekend. Let's start with the Missouri Tigers, the only local team still playing some football. K-State obviously will not play in a bowl game now. Kansas long since has been done. And we talked last week on this particular podcast about the fact that the game had some import from Missouri to keep up the momentum and things like that, and not like they had good things in the bank. It's still going to be a good season for Missouri, but they went out and they got run off the field pretty much in this game. Offense didn't look good. Quarterback showed some things for the second week in a row that make you go into the off season maybe not like you're worried. You've got a freshman quarterback, but he's kind of looked like a freshman quarterback. So not a good day at the office for Eli Drinkwitz and the Tigers.
No, 3 interceptions, mistakes here and there when it looked like they were going to take control of the game. They didn't, and then Mississippi State played with a passion. And if you get a chance to listen to me and Danny on College Football Game Day, you won't anymore this year. We're done. But last Saturday, I felt very comfortable with what I said. I think we proposed how limited Mississippi State's offense has been. Historically low rushing average, passing yards per completion, historically low. How could they even score? And I think you may correct me if I'm wrong, at least I was trying to emphasize, yet Mike Leach's teams can go off.
Right.
Like they did against LSU. What happens if they're engaged and they want to play on senior day? I see a lot of teams excited when they've had a frustrating year, but it's the last game of the year. You say, how lucky am I to play football? And screw the coaches. I'm not even going to listen to them. Let's go play some ball. And you play your best free-flowing football. And that's exactly what Mississippi State did. They controlled the game. They look like the better team. Missouri did a decent job fighting back, getting into the 30s and making it look respectable. It was Mississippi State all the way from the second quarter on. So I do think it matters. I think it's a big missed opportunity for Mizzou to end up 5-5. Now this bowl game means a lot. You're going to play Iowa. It's a team that's not going to try to beat you 50-30. They are very willing to win 17-14. They're going to give Missouri room to breathe. Quarterback doesn't have to play perfect football. You're not playing an SEC school, but Iowa's not going to make mistakes. So this is a really good test and be a really good win for Missouri. And a little pressure on them because you don't want to finish off the year with another loss or a disappointing performance. If Iowa won 30-10 and controlled the game and out-physicaled you and stopped Roundtree from running, and those would be some punches in the gut because you're the SEC team, Danny. But the end of the Missouri season reminds me much of the K-State season. K-State is not going to a bowl game because of the COVID question. Really what K-State had is a COVID hit with some players, and the county said, we're going to suspend your operations. And they said, well, we don't know how long. When a county's in control, what does that mean? How can we play in a bowl game in a week and a half? So they almost had to say, we can't say yes to a bowl and then not show up. You don't do sub-teams like that. You don't have the conference just to say, oh, I guess we're not going to do it. So K-State said, we've got to be fair to everyone else. We're not going to play. But you think about the end of the season for K-State. At halftime of the Baylor game, K-State's ahead and has control of the game. And it's close, but Baylor has had only 88 offensive yards. In the second half, Baylor went off. Charlie Brewer played his best. They moved the ball up and down the field. They scored on every possession. And then you go to the next game, and Texas did the same. 1.5 games of not being in the same level as their opponent. What happened? It didn't seem like that should be the summary of the K-State season, but what's your memory? 69 points from Texas. You got to really let the dust settle before you go back, hey, Oklahoma's champs again, K-State beat them, all those things. How about Missouri? You and I were counting the games up. Not that we were predicting that Missouri was going to win, but we were saying they may end up 8-3 this year. Look at what they did. But once the game got tied 14-14 or something like that against Georgia, it was all Georgia, kind of like K-State and Baylor.
Right.
And this game was a little bit like the Texas game with probably more disappointment in the fact that it's Mississippi State who hadn't moved the football. So they played their last 1.5 games in a way that doesn't seem like the rest of the season. So which feeling do you have in your head? Which one permeates the program, right, for next year? Because Eli Drinkwitz is in his first year. Next year matters. So real question marks. That makes the bowl game. I'm glad they get to go to a bowl game. I wish K-State were going to a bowl game for the same reasons, to go reestablish yourself and put the final conclusion on this with a thumbs up. But I thought the last game and a half really put a different view on the season. Now they're 5-5, and you got to remember back to say, oh, yeah, they beat LSU. And we did these good things. And we're definitely the third best team in the SEC East. I still will be able to do that and say good season, Missouri, incredibly good season. But, boy, that Mississippi State game ended up being a disappointment.
Yeah, and the bowl game becomes that much more important, like you mentioned, in the context of we were talking about that for K-State. They don't get that opportunity. Missouri does on the 28th of December. Let's talk about the final day in championship Saturday. Oklahoma gets the job done against a feisty Iowa State team, which really had some things go against them. I don't know if I've ever seen a coach. He was like a jockey on the sideline, Matt Campbell, just fighting for everything for his team, calls he didn't think went his way, and they showed some real spirit. And, Brock Purdy wasn't, certainly perfect. He threw 3 interceptions. The last one, is just something you have to do kind of at the end of the game, maybe a little early with a minute to go. But great championship game, and Iowa State showed that they belonged. But the disappointment of the fact of the structure that we talked about this on College Game Day, the fact there is no regular season champion. There just is a champion. And Iowa State became the first team to win the championship outright during the regular season per se. They had the best record. They weren't tied with anybody. And then they come so close against Oklahoma, and they're left with really nothing except the memory of a good season. Oklahoma wins their 6th straight championship. All in all, though, a really great testimony to Big 12 football.
It was a lot of fun. Iowa State shows a lot of resolve, fighting the way they do to the end of the ball games. They deserve a lot of credit. This group of people associated with the program, Matt Campbell, Brock Purdy quarterback, and many of the other players who've been around a while, deserve a lot of credit. But, boy, is it a quandary for me to put myself in the shoes of the Iowa State faithful. Do you wave your flag high that you played a full round-robin, 9-game schedule, and you cleared the rest of the group by a whole game?
And beat the team that you played in the
beat the team that, people, Oklahoma came back and won a championship game. Don't you feel like a champion? But there is, in basketball, if you would win the regular season championship and then go over to the T-Mobile Center and lose in the semifinals, I think you'd call yourself a champion every day of the week, because I think you'd rather win the regular season than ever
and you get a
go
trophy.
to T-Mobile. You see I said T-Mobile twice? It's the first time I've ever been put on the spot of having to decide if I'm going to say T-Mobile or go back to Sprint Center. I did pretty good. It's hard not to say San Diego Chargers.
If I never call it the Sprint Center again, you can pat me on the back, but you won't have to.
Yeah, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to say Chargers in Los Angeles without saying San Diego. So, anyway, I hate to pat myself on the back, but I go, whoa, I remembered it's T-Mobile, not Sprint Center. But still, the point is, in basketball, it's easy. But in football, we don't say that's the champion. You're not the champion. Wow. So did Iowa State not end that streak that goes all the way back to the 19-teens, the last time they won a conference championship? How do you do this? How do you not end up sounding like you're Central Florida putting a national championship banner up if you do anything else other than say it's a good season? So, I don't know if we need to start, everyone's wanting to pat them on the back. I also want to say there's another side to the story, and I'm not talking about Oklahoma. I'm saying from Iowa State. Do we have an Iowa State adjusted good, excellent for everyone else and then excellent for Iowa State? Because Matt Campbell seems to be the greatest coach in the world, if I listen to some faithful people who back Iowa State. And I think they ended up 8-5 last year in what was supposed to be like the greatest season ever. I think they lost their last 3 games. Here we go again. They lost 3 times this year, Danny. 3 out of 11. Really? Is this we're supposed to bow down and say, oh my gosh, Iowa State? And what happens if they lose their bowl game, Danny?
Right.
No. Brock Purdy threw an interception at the end. Matt Campbell was an embarrassment on the sideline. He was wrong. He was wrong about what he was arguing about. He was wrong twice. Mm-hmm. His guy targeted, easy call, and his guys didn't respond, and that's coaching, when when Oklahoma jumped offside twice, it's not offside if they don't touch you, which they didn't, or if they get back under their side of the ball out of the neutral zone and you don't react to it. And it has to be a guy reacting close by. So when the slot defender jumped into the neutral zone, it was really hard for Iowa State to have said he was offsides because the left guard can't move and you don't have the association. Does that make sense? The rule doesn't allow it. So the first jump was almost like, oh, man, are you kidding me? The wrong guy jumped for OU. But then when they were dumb enough to jump right in the middle and Iowa State didn't respond, that's on Iowa State. Right. And Matt Campbell, like the ESPN, the ABC rules analyst said, should have been, treating an official like that, that'd be double technical if it was basketball.
Right.
Right? I mean, totally losing his head and the players grabbing him and saying, "Come on." It's okay to be mad. I'm passionate if you're right. But when you're wrong, it's an embarrassment. So I think there's a lot of people maybe in this region that have a different view of Iowa State than, the cute little cuddly, yes we can type of team. But Oklahoma, give them all the credit in the world. How about having an off year, a freshman quarterback? Even still, Rattler's not in the same league as those NFL stars. Did you see the Sooners on Sunday go crazy?
Right.
Even the transfer from Alabama that supposedly isn't any good is lighting it up in the NFL, while not quite as good as Kyler Murray, who he played that day. And then Baker Mayfield played his best game of his career Sunday night against the Giants, hit almost every pass, led the team to an easy victory. So, hey, the Sooners didn't have those guys. They started with 2 losses, and there were reasons why they might not get through. They just took hold of that game and went out and won it. So I know it's not really appropriate around here. You're supposed to say, I hate Texas. Okay, everyone's got to say it. Even if you're a Missouri fan and don't care about the Big 12, you've got to say, I hate Texas. And the other thing that you're supposed to do is go, I'm so tired of Oklahoma winning. Well, I'm impressed with what the Sooners did. And I'm disappointed because as a person associated with the Big 12 and watching things, if they would have won against West Virginia last week on the road, I think they would have been threatening the college football playoff. They would have put pressure on them. They zoomed all the way up to 6 with just beating Iowa State. But if they would have beat West Virginia last week as well, everyone would have said, look at how they're playing now. Plus, you have the right kind of helmet. You have to have an OU helmet to be in the discussion with the Ohio State helmet, Danny. You understand that?
Or the Notre Dame helmet.
I was on
which is probably what would have been the
Notre
the
Dame
question.
helmet. You're right, but
by the way, as much as I don't like Notre Dame, that is one hell of a helmet. I mean that shiny gold helmet. That's every time I see him run out on the field, I'm like, I don't like Notre Dame, but that's one hell of a helmet.
What's weird is we have a plastic cover over our helmets now. Hard plastic. It's always been that way. Notre Dame still paints their helmets every game, and there are people who fight for the opportunity to be the official painters of the helmet each week. So very old school. The problem with anything that I have to say about the issues of the college football playoff, if you're going to have 4 teams, which we're stuck with this year, is who else would you put in if you didn't put in Notre Dame? Or for me, I wouldn't put Ohio State in. I don't think they played well enough. The game control situation, Northwestern outplayed them. Sure, Ohio State found a way to win. They found a way to win to beat Indiana, too. They've won 6 games, okay? They shouldn't be in the playoff. Their play on the field
right. I agree.
Has not been good enough. Forget 6 games.
I mean, Northwestern is truly, when you talk about Iowa State, they're a try-hard, feisty little football team. But they controlled the game, and if they had, if they had Fields at quarterback, they would have won. I mean, they just couldn't get enough done
right in the red zone
when they were controlling the game through 3 quarters.
Yeah, so the Ohio State thing is really the one that bothers me. But when someone says, I talked to my son this morning, and he said, well, who would you put in instead of Ohio State? And that's where the question becomes too complicated, because I said I cannot introduce any team to you and say, boy, this is my team. Cincinnati is Tulsa. I mean, they were at home. It was raining, but they are Tulsa, okay? I can't put Cincinnati in after that performance, and the resume is not as good, so I'm not going to go Cincinnati. Oklahoma does have 2 losses. They didn't finish off Iowa State. They were holding on at the end. Iowa State was the better team at the end. If they would have finished that game off with a 15-point win, then you could say there's a new OU in town. But I told you, I'm missing that data point of another win last week at West Virginia, so I can't really jump on my soapbox and say it has to be Oklahoma. Again, I can't do it with Texas A&M either. They have some good things, but it's just not conclusive that they should be over the hump. So I like that there's a conference champion in there. I mean, that's good. So that would lean toward Ohio State. I don't have a good argument against Ohio State with a replacement team, but I still wish they wouldn't have got in, and I don't think they, in a lot of ways, deserve to get in. And anything the Big Ten says about, well, they couldn't control it is a joke. They controlled everything, and they changed the rules, and they're continuing to change the rules. They're changing the rules on health and safety, Danny. They said you have to sit out 21 days in the Big Ten for players to be safe to come back if you're a COVID positive, unless Ohio State needs it to be different for a championship game environment, and now they changed the rules again. This used to be a classy conference when you grew up in the Northeast,
right.
Danny. Didn't you think?
Yeah, yes, and they make a big deal about being whatever that category is of school that you have to be, that Nebraska wasn't, and whatever. Yeah, I agree. They have not covered themselves with glory, and once again now, where you talk about people being tired of Oklahoma, there's been an exception, but I think college football fans are damn tired of Clemson and Alabama.
Yep, no doubt. They've diminished college football by having this college football playoff and the same teams being in there. Now maybe we'll look back 30 years and say, who's Clemson? They'll rotate out. Even Alabama wasn't good for a while, so maybe it's just the sequencing. And Bill Hancock, who does such a great job, reminds us of the dominance of Oklahoma under Bud Wilkinson was greater. The Notre Dame teams historically were greater for longer periods of times and more dominant. So maybe it's just part of college football. But this year I wish we were in a college football playoff that included at least conference champions. And then I can even say, give us one out of the Power 5, automatically in the 8. I'm completely comfortable with that. Tell me if it should be Cincinnati or Coastal Carolina or whoever, San Jose State. Let's bring it on. But what's funny about that, and this is where I want to make sure that people understand, I understand this, because I've been saying this a long time to you, Danny, on the college football playoff. You can tell us who your conference champion is any way you want. We are not going to criticize who you tell us your champion is. Look at the Pac-12. And this year it would have been Oregon with 2 losses. They weren't even supposed to play in a championship game.
Right.
It was Washington. But Washington said, because of COVID, we can't play. We have to look for the sub. They said, Oregon, you're in. Oregon went and won against USC. This college football playoff would have included Oregon in my playoff.
Right.
And you might chuckle and go, that is totally messed up. But I'm sticking by it through thick and thin. Tell us who your champion is. And I don't care, Big Ten, if you play 2 games. Tell us Ohio State's in. Under that formula, I have no problem with Ohio State being in. Just tell us who your team is. Oregon, Ohio State, Oklahoma, bring it on. But how about our ACC question? Before we finished College Game Day saying, what about the tradition of ACC football? What would it look like if Notre Dame was a champion in one of those years rather than a traditional ACC type of school? Well, they cleaned that up.
Bravo, Clemson.
With Clemson winning that game, we will not have to read Notre Dame as a champion, and we're going to be able to say trivia. About 10, 15 years, they're going to talk about something, and they're going to talk about Notre Dame in a championship game, and everyone's going to go, what? Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference. How could they ever play in a championship game? This will fade from memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Stan Weber on football. It's always a treat on Mondays right here.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com, specializing in expert healthcare guidance and assistance for you.